welcome back. Now, a warning that our next topic is of a sensitive nature and viewer discretion is advised.
Gavin Meenan was just 18 years old when he took a bend in the road too quickly and collided with another car. The driver of that other car tragically passed away.
He joins us now to tell his story alongside Chief Executive of the Road Safety Authority, Sam Waide. Good morning to you both, and thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. Gavin, can you take us back to 2003, 18 years of age, just newly got your licence? I think so many people understand we've been in the same situation, but a tragic circumstance. What happened to you?
Yeah, it was a month before my 19th birthday, and just finished my first week in college, returned home and took the car and collected a few of my friends, and we were having the crack, and as you do, catching up on the week, and we're driving around and decided to take a road that I rarely would take, and on the return home I took a corner too fast and unfortunately collided with the oncoming car, and a lady passed on the scene, and obviously that changed my life forever.
Do you remember? I assume you remember it viscerally.
Yeah, I remember it as if it
bit.
was yesterday. Yeah. So still very real, still very raw, and it's something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Yeah.
You're from a small area.
Yes.
So you knew this. You knew this person.
Yeah. I was able to identify her on the scene, and even that made matters much worse because I knew her as a wonderful woman who came from a wonderful family, and they certainly showed their wonderful nature afterwards as well, and the way that they responded after the car accident, which was quite powerful for me as well.
You were charged with dangerous driving causing death. You're banned from driving for 6 years and received a suspended sentence. How did you deal with that?
I didn't deal with it. I was back in college after a few days, and it happened on a Thursday, and there was the wake and the funeral in the preceding days, and I was obviously in an absolute haze of confusion and depression, and they felt as though the best thing for me to do was to get back to living a normal life. So I went back to college a few days afterwards and subsequently pushed that away for almost a decade of my life before I started to speak about it. And yeah, that.
An awful lot of people's lives have been touched through these awful tragedies on our roads, and they react in a way that is personal to each of them, because there can be blame, there can be guilt, there can be anger. God only knows what there can be. For you, that woman's family reacted in the most beneficent of ways, I would say, in that they stood up for you. Yeah,
they were incredible. Yeah, I mean, they welcomed me into the house for the wake a couple of days afterwards. They were very supportive, very loving, and very forgiving. And as incredible as that was at the time, I found it difficult to accept because I couldn't forgive myself. And even they went to the extent where 3 of her sisters appeared on the day of the court case, and one of them took the stand and told the judge that they didn't want me to go to jail. And that is something that had a profound effect on me. And as I mentioned, I really got to know the power of people over those years and over that experience, which had a very deep influence on me and has instilled a sense of purpose in me to help others now too.
You spoke about how they forgave you. You found it incredibly difficult to forgive yourself.
Oh, massively, yeah. I hated myself for what happened, and although, again, small community, I would often meet her nephews and they'd be talking to me and telling me, look, it could have been me and my brothers that took the car, and we understand this was an accident. You didn't have an intention to hurt or harm anyone. And I couldn't hear it at the time.
So what did you do? How did this manifest itself in your life? How did you react to this?
I would have used alcohol as a numbing agent for a number of years, and I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want to deal with the pain. I didn't know how to deal with the pain. I was offered counselling and support and professional services, but I didn't want to go there. I wanted to run away from it, and I did run away from it for, as I said, almost a decade, until eventually it became all too consuming, and the guilt of it all just hit me like a ton of bricks. 10 years later, after I became a dad, and I was less distracted, let's say, with alcohol or other things I would have used to numb the pain in the past. So it really hit me then.
And what do you mean it hit you? Did it go, you have to change your life now, or?
I have to get help.
Okay.
Yeah. And I rang a counsellor and I started a process of therapy, and that was the start of the healing journey, which continues to this day, you know. So it doesn't end.
Yeah.
And I know you're a massive advocate for empowerment, and you're here sharing your story as well, and expressing how difficult it has been. Sam, last year 185 fatalities, I think it was, on Irish roads. It is a rise again. There's already been a number of deaths on Irish roads, and we're only so early into the new year. When you hear stories like this is something I'm sure you come across all too regularly, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's 2025. It wasn't a good year, and no one wants loss of life, and no one actually wants. And I'm sure Gavin has explained. Gavin, doesn't want others being in his situation. 2025. It's in terms of what happened in 2025 and the causal factors. There was an increase actually in cyclists, pedestrians, motorcyclists, in terms of fatalities, which is very concerning. But that said, there has been some progress. The causal factors, we look at 2025, speed. Speed is the highest probability of the causal factor. Now, it's not just speed alone, because speed combined with drink and driving, people who drive on drugs, and that affects their awareness, that affects their reaction times. But there has been some progress made on the behaviours, and this is, Gavin and I were chatting about earlier about it's actually getting we all have to change our behaviours and help each other to change behaviours. No one, I believe, gets up in the morning and looks in the mirror and says, I'm going to kill someone today on the road. So it is actually that thinking about, well, what behaviour can you change? And what behaviour can you influence your friends to change?
So this is interesting, because it's the worst statistic, and this is the thing, the worst statistics we have since 2014 last year, 190 fatalities. But we use the word statistics, we've got age groups. You were in that age group. That's still the one that's affected the most, the 16 to 25-year-olds that are involved in these collisions. But the two people that have died so far on our roads this year, God bless them, that's Francis Kelly from Longford and Brian Cronin from Kerry. They're not statistics. They're people that people loved. They were part of a life, active members of our communities. And ye found before the RSA that targeting mothers with sons was something that changed behaviours. Getting mums to talk to their sons about their driving and what they're doing had a huge effect. So what do we need to have parents sitting there? Because you were 18. Yeah. Were you thinking? Were you just like... Because I remember when I was 18 and I got my driving licence, it was freedom.
Yeah. There's less consideration of consequences, which is why I feel a lot of younger men are wanting to take greater risk, because at 18 I felt invincible, and I would have perhaps heard something like this or come across something like this or some statistics, and it might have shifted something in me, but very temporarily, and I would have felt as though that happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me until it does. And that's the reality of it. We're not invincible, and as I said, there is a consequence to every decision and every choice you make. And if you're going to push the speed on the road, there's a potential consequence of a death there.
The message, speed is an issue. We're hearing it from Gavin. The message about drinking and driving, the numbers are going up. People driving without seatbelts are going up. The messages aren't resonating as much with people at the moment. We're seeing that from these figures. How can we turn this around?
So there is an urgency, an absolute urgency for reversing this trend. I've met Minister Sean Canny, Minister for Transport, before Christmas. I'm meeting him again in the coming days, next week, in fact. And there are measures which there's more education. RSA, we have targeted younger cohorts. Transition year, we've refreshed. We've third level institutions. We've launched a new programme with them. But actually, it's not just about education. We need more enforcement and more legislation. And Minister Canny recently confirmed that we will, as a system, we're going to bring in legislation. There will be more speed cameras. Those speed cameras, and your point, Tommy, about the behaviours, the seatbelt wearing, mobile phone use, the legislation is going to be changed so that it will pick up not just speed, but seatbelt wearing, people not wearing seatbelts, and people using their mobile phone whilst driving. But also, it is actually about deterrence and it is about enforcement, and that's why RSA, we've been working closer with the Garda Síochána than ever. Not just before Christmas, but in this 2026. Yeah,
600,000 new drivers on the road in the last 10 years, and of course the guards haven't gone up in the correlating number. Listen, Gavin, we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about something like this that I can't even imagine, to be honest. So, Gavin Meenan, thank you so much, and Chief Executive of the RSA, Sam Waide. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For anyone affected by anything we have discussed, you can visit virginmedia.ie/helplines.